Okay, Sister Warda, if you can start with the opening dua for us.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربنا علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وحلالا طيبا وقلبا خاشعا ولسانا ذاكرا وتوبة نصوحا وتوبة قبل الموت سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran jazilan, Sister Warda. My apologies once again for that delay. I thought we could save a few minutes, but Allah knows best. So tonight, inshallah, we're going to start with a new door. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa ashabi wa barik wa sallim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay, let's go to the first slide. We're going to look at the door of patience, a door that leads to the heart, that can assist us to develop the heart and to purify the heart by using this quality of patience. Now, patience, sabr, is something that we all familiar with. It's something that we need every single moment of our lives, and we've been told a lot about sabr. But we want to look at some of the practical aspects of how can this quality of patience actually assist us to purify our hearts. Now, essentially, there are two methods that we're going to examine and look at. The first one is to establish what are the things that we do and the qualities that we have and our characteristics that actually dirties the heart, that stains the heart and makes it impure. What are these actions and qualities? Now, if we do nothing else and we only block and remove and prevent from these qualities settling on our heart, the ones that pollute and stain the heart, then already we've made progress. Then the heart will be in a better state if we remove some of these distasteful qualities and actions. Now, in order to remove these qualities, we have to know what they are. In other words, we have to understand and know what is the opposite of patience. Because if we know what's the opposite of patience before they even settle in the heart and on the heart, we can already take steps to protect and guard the heart from allowing those qualities to settle within the heart. And once they settle in the heart, they exercise control, and then these horrible, harmful, distasteful qualities start controlling the actions of the heart, the heart, and the heart in turn, in fact, then controls the actions of the body, which results in us doing the things that's harmful to us generally as believers. Now, the first part is to protect us from those things that's harmful. The second part is to actually identify and find out what are the things that can beautify the heart, that can purify the heart. And those are the qualities that Allah will be pleased with. So what are they, and how do we actually go about beautifying and adorning our hearts with those qualities? That's the second part. So the first part is to remove and protect the heart from the ones that's not good, and then the good ones, to actually find a way of identifying them and to make them enter the heart and settle in the heart and fill the heart with those things. Now, when we say a purified heart, a truly purified heart is one that has absolutely no trace of other than Allah in it. A pure, clean heart. Now, no trace of other than Allah in it means other than Allah means creation. So anything that has to do with creation is considered other than Allah. Now, if we examine our hearts, then whatever part of our heart we want to look at, we will see that there are traces of other than Allah in almost our complete heart. And we know what they are. It's our work, it's the way, it's our wealth, our possessions, our looks, our behavior. All of those things settle in the heart and take up areas within the heart. Now, a pure heart has removed all of that, and it only has the love and the consciousness and the remembrance of Allah in the heart. What a difficult, extremely difficult process that is. To remove everything that is other than Allah from the heart is an extremely difficult process. But because it's difficult, it doesn't mean we must not attempt to do it. Because we live in the dunya, and the dunya will have impact on our hearts. We have to work, we have to eat, we have to dress, we have to work, we have to engage with people. This is what life is about. The thing is to be engaged in the dunya, doing all these things that we must do as human beings, but not to allow these things to enter the heart and take control of the heart. Because the moment it enters through that door and it takes control of the heart, then the remembrance and the love of Allah gets pushed to a corner in the heart until it's completely pushed out. And the heart then eventually becomes completely filled with only those things that's other than Allah. May Allah protect us that we don't ever get to the point where the love and the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pushed out of our hearts and we get so sucked in to that which is other than Allah. Now, if we have pure hearts, then you won't be able to. Your heart won't allow you to be disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do anything that Allah is displeased with, because the heart eventually controls the actions of the body. And that is one of the reasons why we must strive to develop pure hearts. Now, this door of sabr is one of the doors that will assist us to purify the heart. So we have to understand what is sabr and what is the opposite of sabr. So if we define sabr, patience, these are general definitions of the concept: the ability to accept, wait, and tolerate delays, misfortune, or adversity without getting upset or angry. It speaks for itself. So we'll go through some of this as we move on. The key is here that patience means that you don't get upset and frustrated or angry with anything that causes delay or causes hardship for you. Now, generally, you need sabr when things are not going your way, when things are not going the way you expected them to go, whether it's small or whether it is big. And normally, it relates to those things which are outside of our control. We don't have power or ability to change or to fight it. Whether it is a simple thing like standing in a queue and the bus is not coming. The bus is late, or the bus is maybe not going to come at all. You're in the queue, you've got no control over that. Now you must exercise patience. That's outside your control. You can't change that. Now, what must you do? You must change. Under those circumstances, you accept and you endure that standing in the queue, and you surrender yourself to the conditions and the circumstances that you have. You don't have the ability to change. Now, when they define patience, generally, then tolerance and acceptance are seen to be key aspects of patience. You must be tolerant and you must be accepting. But it can also be viewed as negative, because if we put patience just one side for a moment, then at the general level, it could mean, or it could be understood, that you are surrendering yourself to what you don't like. You tolerate, for example, let me use an example. A person keeps on insulting you and finds fault with you, could even do harm to you. At that level, you could say, you don't have to tolerate that kind of behavior. Now, if you're tolerant and you behave like that, then it's not, that is not, there could be an element of patience that one can bring into it, but at the general level, it's not to tolerate things that you dislike or that's unpleasant. When we talk about patience now, yes, you must be tolerant and you must accept. These are things that's crucial. If you're not tolerant and you're not accepting of your conditions or circumstances, then you can't be patient. This is at the level now of Islam now. You tolerate and you accept and you're satisfied with whatever is happening. You don't fight it, you don't object, you don't complain. And that is the first sign of reflecting a willing attitude. You're not forced to do it. Yes, circumstances are outside of your control, but you choose the attitude to endure and persevere, even though the circumstances are very difficult under which you are doing it. Now, if we look at the two things, impatience, the opposite of patience. Now, at a very general level, when people are confronted with delays or catastrophes or hardships, then they normally respond with frustration and complaining, and they're intolerant. They even get angry. Now, the moment you respond in this way, then you must know you are responding in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes. The bus is not coming and people are insulting you. Are you not allowed to become irritated and frustrated and angry even with these things? Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frowns upon that and dislikes that kind of response from us? I'm going to open the floor quickly. And here, I want, especially with this one of patience and sabr, for people to participate, to ask questions, to get clarifications or make their comments, because this is one of the major doors. It's a major door that must be used to assist us to purify the hearts. So I'm opening the floor now.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salie, I always think of Nabi Ayub in such situations and how he was tested for so long and he never complained and he had so much sabr. And when his wife complained, how his reaction was. And I always use him as an example of sabr.
Why does Allah frown upon or dislike it when we complain and we get angry, when we go through difficulties or there's delays? Why? Anyone else? Or even if you want to add to that, Sister Aisha.
There's so much to be thankful for. There's so much ni'mas that we receive from Allah. And with human nature is to focus on what you don't have, that one thing you don't have, and forgetting all the millions of other gifts that we receive daily, every second. And one should be mindful of that, inshallah.
Okay. Anyone else would like to add? Yes?
May I attempt, inshallah?
Please do.
I think if we are tested and we are not convinced, if we get angry and frustrated, it means that we are losing sight of the fact that Allah is in charge of everything. And through the tests, it is for us to build character and to really place our trust in Allah. And that sabr is actually taming the nafs within us. And that is a battle. So when we get angry, it means we're actually frowning at the decree of Allah upon us. I don't know if I'm on the right track.
Very good response. Very good response. When we get angry and frustrated, what are you getting angry at? Yes, the circumstances around you, that triggers the anger or the frustration. But then we forget who is the one that put those conditions there for us to be tested in. Whenever you are confronted with a difficulty, remember one thing: nothing can happen if it's not the will of Allah. Allah has decreed those conditions. For every single human being, it's different. But Allah has decreed the condition for you, for that moment. Allah has decreed it to test. How are you going to react and going to respond? This comes from Allah. Allah puts you in that test, and this is the way you're responding. Can we understand how dangerous it is to become cross, upset, and frustrated and complain every time we hit a snag or a difficulty? I hope that point is absolutely clear, because it becomes the cornerstone of extracting the benefit of understanding this quality.
But Salie,
Yes.
may I, something that I'm just thinking of, what if we are tested with people? It's coming from people, the irritate. Well, I suppose Allah is the one who allows that person to do it. But we look at it as the source from people who are pressing your buttons. I need a bit of guidelines.
Yes. You see, most of the things we said when we talk about patience are things that's outside our control. Are we saying that the person who is pressing your buttons at that time has control over an aspect of your life that is not under Allah's control? Can you see how subtle and how difficult it becomes to have the correct understanding of this? So that person smacks you, insults you, hurts you. It becomes complicated to explain, but let me do this. The person who is doing the wrong to you will have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their choices. But does Allah not have the right or the authority, the ability to remove you or protect you from that? But Allah has chosen to leave you in that situation to see how is the slave going to react and respond to that, which is not easy. But I'm going to leave the slave there. I'm not going to assist. I want to see what is the reaction of the slave. That is, for that moment, your test that Allah has chosen. Allah has chosen the test. The person who's doing you wrong will have to answer for their wrong, but Allah could have allowed it or could have stopped it from happening. Does that assist?
Yes, I think maybe now that I'm thinking about it for myself, it is how we're going to handle, because we can get angry at the person. But when we realize that the person is only able to do it because Allah gives them the ability to do it, we can grow from it or we can lose out by being angry at the person or increasing our dependence on Allah to help us through that situation. Yeah, but it remains very difficult.
Yes, it's not easy. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment on this before we move on?
I suppose we can control how we react in a situation, but we cannot control the person who is causing a disturbance to us. We cannot control what they say, what they do, but we can control how we react to them. And yes, at the end of the day, we also have to realize that Allah is in control and not us.
Yeah, not that person. Very good answer, Sister Aisha. Very good answer. We can control our response to whatever happens that Allah has chosen for us. Allah has put us in certain conditions and circumstances. We can control how we react and respond. That is the test. The circumstances might vary. It might not even be a person. It might be something where your car breaks or something that's got nothing to do with the person, but there's a crisis or a calamity in your life. Now, in a case that, who has determined that? That is what you must ask yourself. The one who determined those conditions under which you are going to live for that moment is Allah. Our lives are not made up of random things that happens. So this happens now, maybe because that has happened, this will happen. Allah has determined every single moment, every single event of everyone's life. Otherwise, you are saying that our lives is a hit and miss. It could or it couldn't. Our lives have been determined, the conditions and the circumstances under which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place us has been predetermined. We must know that those conditions have been placed there by Allah. Forget about the person. Forget about the person for a moment or whatever it is that's upsetting you. Know that your conditions and your circumstances are determined. It's the will of Allah. Can anything happen that is not the will of Allah? You all will give an easy answer and say, of course not. How can anything happen that's outside the will of Allah? Can that person insult you if it was not the will of Allah? It was the will of Allah that that person insult you, but Allah did not will for him to insult you. He chose to insult you, but Allah placed you in that circumstances and allowed it to happen to see how is the slave going to respond to this difficulty. Maybe we should move on. Inshallah, we'll touch on this one again.
Can I comment?
Yes, please do, Kanita.
Just to follow on that, whatever we are faced with has been decreed. Is it not then, and obviously we can control our reaction only and not what is being done to us, then it would, in those difficult times, be good to remember then that there is probably something that we can learn out of the situation. So if someone's being mean to us, how do we then react to it? And not to take offense or to be patient or whatever the lesson is. Even if it's just to control our anger then, or our response, and have it be more of the appropriate response or the correct response in those situations.
Okay.
When someone is triggering us.
Yes. Good response. Good point that you've added there. In everything that happens to us, good or bad, there's a blessing in it. What is the blessing? Now, the blessing is not the same all the time. We must extract and find the blessing. But let me move on now. Okay, so Allah doesn't want us to react and respond in a way. Oh, what am I doing here with my screen now? Sure. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me go back there. I don't know what I'm doing here, quite honestly. Stop share. Share screen.
We were seeing your shared screen.
I know you were. Okay, let me see now. Okay, 2. Yeah, I shouldn't be coming up with this. Failed. I don't know how to get out of this now, actually. Yes, you can see my shared screen, but you see that screen, eh? The one that I'm moving now.
No, we're seeing from impatience to patience.
Up till what line?
It ends with disappointment and unhappiness.
Oh, you're seeing that?
The second paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we see your little red mouse. Yes, common saying.
Okay, shukran. I don't know what's happening on my side. So the first real lesson when we look at this quality of patience is at the first level. At the very first level, you must accept and resign yourself to what is happening, even if it is something that makes you unhappy or you're disappointed. The very first thing that you must do is you must accept and resign yourself. There's nothing I can do. Like most people say when there's death in the family or they were in an accident and they wrote off their car, there's nothing I can do. So I have to accept it. That is the first level to show that you have patience. If you don't accept and you keep on complaining and moaning and fighting and it's displaying anger, then you're far from having patience. So the very first step is move out of that paradigm of the anger to the first level, and that is to accept. There's nothing you can do about it. This saying is a very good saying. There's nothing I can do, so I have to accept it. You hear people say it all the time. Whether it's a death or a crisis or a calamity, they say it all the time. That shows that whoever's uttering that is a person who at least has patience, a certain amount. That's the first level. But at the next level, it's to be not just accept and resign, what can I do? It is to be satisfied and contented. It's a completely different level of patience. You've moved from disappointment and unhappiness. Even though you've accepted, you're still disappointed and unhappy, but you've accepted it because you can't change it. The next level is you become tranquil about what has happened. And then you accept and you are satisfied and contented. And you then bear whatever it is, that difficulties, that hardships, you bear it with fortitude, with courage and strength, and you tolerate the difficulties that accompanies it. That's the next level. You are now satisfied and contented. Then there's a level even beyond that. May Allah give it that we all become of those people who will become even a little bit like this. At a higher level, one of the highest level of patience, not the highest, but a higher level than the other two levels, is when whatever happens to you, especially difficult things, you say, this is a test from Allah. There's a blessing in it because Allah loves us. There's a blessing in it. Even if I don't know what this blessing is, this is a test and I must try and see what is the blessing. And even if I can't see the blessing, I must know that the blessing is actually there. Now, if something is a blessing to you, it's a gift. It's a blessing. How can you be unhappy? If somebody gives you a gift, you're happy. Especially if the gift is something that you appreciate or like. Now, Allah's blessings are things that we should welcome. So if it's a blessing, then there's no chance of you being angry or dissatisfied. You're in fact in a state of joy, tranquility, happiness, all the good things. And if you can have that, you'll be able to cope with most of the setbacks and difficulties that happens in your life. If something bad happens to you and you say, this is the one way. The one way is to say, to do what the common saying says. There's nothing I can do. I must just accept it. You can have that. But if you make progress and something bad happens to you, and you say, Subhanallah, Allah has given me another blessing. I don't really know what it is. We're going to touch on how you can actually look at what the blessings are later on. But this is not as bad as it looks. It might look terrible for somebody on the outside, but for you, it's a blessing. You are happy. You're tranquil. You're at ease. You in fact, I was going to say enjoy the difficulty. We're far from that, but may Allah make it possible for us. But your life won't be full of complaints and moaning and frustration all the time. You'll get more out of life because you won't see only the one side. You will actually see the benefits as well. Now, our Iman, we all talk about Iman, faith. What is true faith? What is true Iman? That is reflected in what we say and what we do. Our behavior is a reflection of the kind of Iman that we have. Not only how you believe. Yes, of course. But a person who has true Iman, do you expect them to say certain things or do certain things? The behavior and the utterances and the conduct of the person is determined by the type of Iman that they have. That's an almost obvious point. Now, there's a direct link between patience and faith, patience and Iman. The two impact on each other. Sabr impacts on Iman, our Iman impacts on the kind of sabr that we have. Now, Iman, true faith, is to unquestioningly obey what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do and to stay away from what He prohibited. If you have true Iman, we all ask, oh, Ya Allah, give us Iman and Taqwa. We lift our hands, we say, Ya Allah, give us Iman and Taqwa. It's not an utterance. Iman is experienced in the heart, not the mind. It's not something that you mentally work out the logic of. Iman is something that you experience within the heart. It's beyond the mind. And the pure heart, if it's filled with the continuous consciousness of Allah, you will do what Allah loves you to do. So ultimately, with a pure heart, you will see signs of it in the behavior of the slave. The type of heart that the person has can be judged, not completely, Why not? We never know why people do things. We can only observe the thing from a distance. But generally, the behavior and the conduct of a person gives you a glimpse of the kind of heart that that person has. Only Allah truly knows what's in your heart. Only Allah. Not even the malaika knows what's truly in your heart. You would think that the malaika would know that? No. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly knows what is in your heart and what your intentions are, what your niyyah is. We've all heard that patience is half of Iman. Look at the weight that is attached to patience. Half of Iman. Faith, believing truly and correctly in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Believing in Allah truly, correctly, with Iman, half of that is made up of patience. Now, there's another hadith which I summarize, and that is that where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are 8 doors to Jannah. And one of them is called the door of Iman. So if you have patience, you're halfway through this door to Jannah. We're not even talking to the heart now. We're hoping your heart will lead you to Jannah. If you have sabr, you're halfway through on your way to Jannah. And these are the 8 doors. I'm just quickly I'm not gonna touch on each of the doors. And the 8th door is the door of Iman. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that certain people will go to Jannah through certain doors. And this gives me an understanding of another hadith that he said when he described Sayyidina Abu Bakr, the first Khalifa of Islam, may Allah be pleased with him, describe him. He said, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhum, will go through all the doors of Jannah. So it doesn't mean if you go, you can only go through one door. You might be able to go through more than one door at a time. And these are probably, this is to give us a glimpse of what happens at that time when people are going to go to Jannah, to highlight the importance of these things. But there are obviously other things. I can't readily think now of I can't think of anything else, but there are probably other things that's worthy of going to Jannah, where it will also act as one of the fast tracks. The important point that I'm making here is that the door of Iman is directly linked to sabr, and sabr is something that we must treat as so important. It is something that can assist us to go to Jannah. But before we even get there, where we are at, it can assist. This quality of true patience can assist us to purify our hearts And that is the objective of why we are doing the series. Purification of the heart is the title of this of the series that we're doing now. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best of faith is patience and tolerance. We've got some idea of what patience is. Tolerance is the best of faith. You could have said the best of faith is patience and stop there. But tolerance is added to give us a further, because tolerance and patience are coupled. Generally, when we talk about the understanding of what patience is, to tell us that how we must behave when we are confronted with difficulties of other people or difficulties in our circumstances and conditions within which we find ourselves. Now, one of the scholars, I've repeated this, and this is going to be repeated throughout this whole series. The truth is often hidden in its opposites. Because if you understand what's the opposite of patience, it's impatience. Now you don't know what impatience really is. Impatience, you think, is you can't wait long in a queue. Maybe yes. But what's the other deeper understanding of impatience? Because if you don't have a proper idea of all the things that can be regarded as impatient, you wouldn't know what to do, how to protect the heart against that. It tells you, by understanding impatience, it tells you what not to do or what to guard against. Because impatience, normally, if things are too slow or there's a crisis, it results in impulsive behavior. You do things in a rushed manner without giving it proper consideration. And it's expressed in these ways: intolerance, anxiety, irritation, and even anger. It's normally associated with what you expect, or maybe it could be a dua that you made. You pleaded for relief, either in material terms or in conditions or circumstances, but it's not happening. It's delayed. The relief and the help is not coming, and then you become impatient. And when you become impatient, then you behave in this way. You become irritated, you become frustrated, you can even become angry. And to remind ourselves what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and we will surely test you with something of fear, hunger, and loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give glad tidings to the patient. As-sabirun. This doesn't mean it's only these things. Allah gives us an idea here covering different aspects, but meaning that whatever we regard as important, Allah will test us with those things. But we are given glad tidings, good news to the people who are patient. Now, why would Allah test us then? With all of these things, wow. Not just hunger and your possessions, but even your health and your lives. People close to you will be taken away, your jobs will be taken away. Allah doesn't benefit from our difficulties. Now, the people, the atheists, use this as a big way of engaging with the believers. This, they say, is one of the big reasons why they don't believe. If there is a God, why does he make us suffer? Why is there so many crises in the world? That's what they say. It's one of the reasons why they don't believe. Now, if we understand our tawheed, then we know Allah doesn't benefit from whatever happens to us, good or bad. Whatever we do, whatever we praise Allah with, or whatever wrong we do, doesn't affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. Allah's majesty, greatness, perfection cannot be changed ever by anything or anyone. So it's not that Allah gives us these difficulties to make us suffer or to cause us pain. There is a purpose that we will be tested to see whether we are of the patient. And we will be tested with the things that we attach a lot of importance to. I'm going to end off there because there's quite a bit more to be said about this. And then we will come up with some practical suggestions of what we should be doing when it comes to applying these qualities, the do's and the don'ts, when we move further on. But let me open up the floor to the last round of questions. Let's just hear if there's any comments or questions. Any comments or questions?
Salie?
Yes, please.
Just another thing on sabr. Yes, we have to be patient with what Allah tests us with, but to find the balance in when people are oppressed and their rights are violated. Sabr doesn't come in there. What's your take on that?
Just repeat that. I didn't quite get that. Their rights are violated.
Yes, or in certain circumstances, people are oppressed, maybe with violence, domestic violence, etc. And often in the past, many of the people said, no, you must just exercise sabr, you must take it. To what extent do we accept and where do we draw the line and not accept it?
There isn't an easy answer to that question, Sister Warda, because one must look at the specifics, not a general statement, and then we can unpack it bit by bit. But whether you are oppressed by your spouse or another individual, is that outside the will of Allah?
Actually, I just wanted to throw the thought out there because sometimes people can think everything that comes your way. It is only by the will of Allah and you must just exercise sabr. But we have to often look at the circumstances in a more holistic way, and it isn't just that you have to take everything that comes your way.
There's a different...
Can I answer or give my opinion on that?
Yes, please.
May I?
Yes.
So on that, I would think that if you are the one being or in an abusive relationship in the home, if the person's doing that, it's one thing to accept, yes, that this is the situation. And the second thing then is, what is your reaction then to it? Or what is your behavior in this situation? If it is, because in a situation where there is perhaps this abuse, you have to always, I think, do what you feel is right. And if you are focused, I think you would still conduct yourself in a way that is patient, but you would, and accepting, because it is what it is at the end of the day. However, if there are certain boundaries that are being crossed and your rights are being infringed upon and your children's welfare is endangered, then you also have you have an obligation to then act in a certain way. Of course, accepting everything, but you have a duty and an obligation, if a certain line gets crossed, to actually do something. We can't, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, we can't only just accept and say, oh, this is just how it is. There comes a point in my mind that I would think that you actually have to do for the sake of whatever the other circumstances are.
Okay. It's a complicated matter to discuss. At an appropriate time, we could perhaps spend more time, but we're right at the end of our session. My response is there's a difference between our reaction and our response to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the circumstances that we are confronted with. There's, for example, an obligation on us to look after our possessions, our health, our time, all of that we have to account for. You have an obligation. You can't just let it be abused and wasted and be ill-treated without doing anything. You have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to protect your rights, the rights of your family, the people close to you. You see somebody else doing something wrong to someone that you don't even know. You don't even know. The wrong is being perpetrated against somebody else. You've got an obligation to do certain things. Either stop it or speak out, or at the very least recognize it as wrong. The same would apply to you in your own circumstances. Sabr is, we're going to come to this next week, inshallah, is the feeling and the approach of whatever is happening and how that affects your heart in relation to your belief, your Iman, your relationship with Allah. The first thing to say, whatever happens is, nothing happens which is outside the will of Allah. So if this is the way Allah is going to test me, it doesn't mean I must accept those things as it is there. The test means I should respond and react in the correct manner. What is the correct manner is a more difficult one to answer. But that is actually the way we should be engaging with these issues. How should we react and respond? And maybe even if we spend a whole session just on going through the what ifs, is this right? Is this wrong? Then we should do that so that we don't lose the importance of extracting the maximum benefit of this door of patience and how it can assist us to develop the correct kind of hearts. I'm going to leave it like that because we might be touching on some of these aspects as we conclude on this particular quality of sabr. Any final comment or question? If not, then yes, I'm going to ask Muhammad Fasih, are you with us still? No, he's may be busy with something else. Ask Sister Warda to make dua for us. The closing dua.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran jazilan. I hope that we're all going to be participating actively in this, because this is a thing that affects us all directly every single moment of our lives. Sabr. We're going to continue with this next week, inshallah, and we hope that we will all have a better understanding and be able to do some of the things that will place our hearts in a better state by doing certain things and staying away from other things, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to understand these things and to benefit. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove all your difficulties, big and small, from you, your family, your friends, and protect especially our young people. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.